evening, ladies and gentlemen, my fellow Zontans, invited guests, and friends. It is indeed my honor to be your keynote speaker and to be a part of the District 24 biannual conference, even though I am having to have this time with you, this moment with you remotely. I certainly wish I was there, and I too missed face-to-face events over the past couple of years for many reasons. I'm sure this video was introduced to you with some background on who I am, but just for the record, I'll state that I am on a mission to impact 1 billion lives by 2025 and democratize safety and support of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. These goals are super important to me, but the 17th SDG is collaboration, and I believe that we, by working together, can solve the world's biggest problems, the other 16 of the SDGs, and that it's made possible by people like you and me. So thank you for being here. I've been asked to share on the theme of building for a better world, and I'd like to share through some of my experiences, some of the ways I'm trying to do that, and perhaps maybe I can inspire you to do what you can to also help continue to build a better world. I began my journey in technology in a very young part of my career, but in 2016, I pivoted away from becoming, or where I was as a digital transformation consultant, to big multinational companies like Club Med, hotel chains, airports, airlines, duty-free brands, doing work with them on customer engagement, and decided that I needed to solve one of the world's big problems, which was assisting women and vulnerable people when they felt physically threatened. I began a company that I raised money for called Jozu for Women. We are a U.S. Delaware C Corporation. I am a multinational with both Australian and U.S. citizenship, so I do a fair bit of travel and did then back and forth for work. I've been to 65 countries, and I'm presently coming to you and recording this in Wisła, Poland. And I'll tell you why in just a minute. But back to WanderSafe. I started a little app that's free called WanderSafe that people could download and use anywhere in the world. That would do 3 really important things. One, it would allow the person who feels threatened to discreetly notify people that love that person. In certain countries, calling the police doesn't help you because they're not great infrastructure or lack of adequate resourcing. They may not speak your key language. And further, there could be corruption involved. I've seen this happen. So being able to call for help discreetly also allows you to signal for help when someone might have taken your device away from you, or in the advent of senior citizens or someone like me who is disabled. I may not be able to reach my phone, but I need to let someone know that I'm in trouble. So it was with these kind of ideas that I formulated with my co-founder, WanderSafe. We developed a piece of hardware called a WanderSafe beacon, which is completely nonviolent, but an incredible tool that would help you or anyone you love to de-escalate a problem. It has a light, a strobe, and a siren for attracting attention, but it also has a silent Bluetooth button that, if pressed, SOS will open up the application even from a lock screen and start sending text messages to the people I'd want to know if I was in trouble so that they could take next action steps. Whether that be to call me and ask me if I was all right, and maybe I say no, and they call the police, or they call the ambulance, or they call the fire department, or send out search and rescue, if I were hiking or something. There's a bunch of different ways that WanderSafe helps people, but this is just some of the ideas we had to get started with. It was in 2019 that I ventured to Lagos, Nigeria on a 2-week roadshow to present WanderSafe to governments, to schools, to investors through an organization called Hive. And I did the Hive week in Lagos and then went to the Hive event in New Delhi. I spoke at the Australian High Commission, the embassy, met the ambassador, talked to women in technology. It was a fantastic trip. I got home on Wednesday, and on Thursday morning, grabbed my best friend, and we went to Boston on a trip that we won, a girls' trip, to watch the Boston Red Sox play the Baltimore Orioles. I remember that. And the Red Sox did not play well. But we were behind third base, and it was super fun for Liz to see her first baseball game. And we went toward Harvard. It was just a great couple of days in Boston. I was incredibly tired from that 2-week trip I'd just come off of. I'd flown 40,000 kilometers in 2 weeks, which is the definition of crazy. Liz and I were sitting in the airport when she went to get a glass of bubbles because apparently I was annoying her. And when she came back, I was on the floor having a seizure and was not able to be brought to consciousness. She panicked, called the staff, called the paramedics, and they threw me on a gurney and threw me into an ambulance, and I was raced off to Massachusetts General Hospital. Now, if you ever get sick, I highly recommend Massachusetts General Hospital. It's the Harvard Teaching Hospital. They're very nice, they're very thorough, and they're incredibly talented doctors, nurses, and staff. They saved my life, but I was diagnosed after being in the ICU for about 2 days on a massive decline, like quickly, with septic shock, that I had contracted cerebral malaria from a mosquito in Africa. And it had been having a party in my body and populating itself, and my blood was 8% parasitic. So you can only imagine that the liver, kidneys, heart doesn't like toxic blood. So the onset of sepsis and severe septic shock was the 1-2 punch. I wasn't given a very high percentage of that I would live, so my family were called. They flew in from everywhere. My son was flown in from Canberra, my mother, my cousins. I mean, I woke up 2 weeks after in this coma with a cast of thousands and people very hysterical, but also relieved and happy, but holding their breaths, because what would become of me post coma and septic shock and cerebral malaria would become the next phase of my life. And nobody wanted to give me the bad news. No one could tell me how long it would take to get out of hospital. No one could tell me what medical intervention or what rehabilitation I might need. So they were just saying, thank God you're alive. And the doctor said, suck it and see if you would. Because there just wasn't a precedent. I'm the second person to survive cerebral malaria in the United States, and the first case that they had ever seen at Massachusetts General Hospital. So it was really an uncommon happening, an unfortunate happening, but I certainly believe in hindsight it was something that would be my greatest teacher in one of these important moments in my life. I remember waking up from that coma when they extubated me saying, who gets malaria? Like, really? I'm in the safety business. I make safety devices and apps, and then this invisible ninja is going to come for me? I couldn't believe it. But I am a single mother, and my son, who was 13 at the time, was by my bedside, and I was crying. I said, sweetheart, I don't know how I'm going to be able to take care of you. I don't know when I'm going to be able to move. I was paralyzed. I couldn't scratch my own nose, more or less get his dinner and off to school. And he looked at me and he smiled and he said, Mom, life is 10% what you're given and 90% what you do with it. That landed here and here. This young man, this 13-year-old, was giving me life advice and telling me that I was in control of my future. This had happened. We couldn't change it. We didn't even understand at the time what was going to come out of this ordeal. We were thankful I was alive, but there was a great big unknown. And the person that I was, the person, active CEO, running around the world, trying to save lives, it was very much like the airplane message, put your mask on first before helping others. And I'd spent a great deal of time in my work taking care of others, trying to save others, and this forced me, and I believe it was the universe forcing me, to realign my values, to rethink my life a little bit, and to decide what this new version, Steph 2.0, was going to be and what her life was going to look like. Fortunately and thankfully, I didn't lose any sense of purpose and commitment to that impact goal. However, I'm just doing it a few different ways. I mentioned that I'm here in Poland at the Paralympic Training Center and in the course of my recovery, my feet and one of my hands was severely damaged, and I wound up becoming Australia's first bilateral osseo-integrated female, meaning below the knee but above the ankle, and losing both of my feet. I have very high-tech prosthesis, so I'm able to walk, but I had been in the hospital for 444 nights, so I had to completely relearn to walk. I'd been in a wheelchair for 18 months, which was a game changer for an able-bodied person. And I had to learn how to dress myself and do everything and rebuild my body, one day at a time, one movement at a time, one tear at a time. But in 2022, I got an email from the NDIS, and they were saying, we're looking to start a parafencing program, any takers? And because I used to ski and snowboard and dance and just be super active, I decided that wheelchair fencing might be something that would get me doing a sport. And I didn't have a sport that I could go back to, so might be nice. And I went along to New South Wales Fencing Federation to their gym in Alexandria, met my coach, Alex Andre. And after 3 lessons with Alex, and if you're not following me on Instagram, my Instagram is @digitalgoddess with 1 D in goddess, and you will see pictures of my first lesson with Alex on September 27th. So I'm just on a year of fencing, parafencing. But she asked me, she said, would you consider representing Australia in parafencing? And I went, what? You're joking, right? And she said, no, I'm quite serious. You have natural talent. And there, I said, if you'll commit, I'll commit. So we're committed, and I've been training now a year and competing for Australia, making sporting history, and becoming a role model for young Australians who have a mobility challenge that could possibly have a sport that may not be cut out for wheelchair basketball or wheelchair rugby or netball or any of those ball sports, but want to find something that suits their ability and their sense of enjoyment in sport. And I certainly found mine in parafencing. So I am here training because we have the World Championships in Terni, Italy on the 3rd through the 7th of October. And I intend to be there and represent Australia, as I've just finished the World Cup parafencing event in Busan. And all of these events are qualifiers to qualify for Paris 2024. I'm currently ranked about 45th in the world, so I have a long way to go to getting up to the top 10, but I'm still very happy with my progress, and it has become something I'm incredibly passionate about and getting a little bit better at every lesson at a time. I'm also learning how to live with disabilities, and that, can I say, has been a game changer in my life as well. I tell people never underestimate a room full of, very determined people with sharp objects. It's really an incredible experience to watch para-athletes because they have so many things that they have to work through and work harder, and it inspires me, the para-fencers that I get to train with. I am training here with the Polish gold medalist, Grzegorz Pluta, who won the men's saber in Rio, the gold medal. So I've got great peers around me and colleagues in my cohort to train, teach me, and encourage me. So I'm going to do my best to see Australia shine. Fingers crossed from my mouth to God's ear in Paris next year in the Paralympics. First time a female parafencer will have competed in the Paralympics if I do manage to get myself there. On the topic of building for a better world and life on the other side of trauma and resilience, I didn't ever think that I would, but I am the ambassador for Rotary International for their Finish the Fight campaign, which is to eradicate malaria, close to my heart and close to my legs, in the West Pacific Rim. They've got a goal to raise $15 million to buy nets, and who would have thought that a $10 net over a sleeping family can prevent and cut malaria by half. You may not know this, but a person dies of malaria every single minute. It kills millions of people a year, but it's not celebrated. It's not sexy. It's not war. It's not COVID. But it has such an impact on societies when kids are taken so young, and it could be completely eradicated. The Gates Foundation built a vaccine that will take and kill cerebral malaria if it's addressed quickly. So community workers to go and educate in the community on symptoms, signs, early detection, early remedy. Everybody lives. So I'm super passionate about my role with finishthefight.org, which is run by the Rotarians. They're one of the top humanitarian groups in the world, and you probably know some of them, ladies in the room. So that's one of the things I'm really passionate about working on, is lending my voice to advocate for more funding for people who are in malaria-prone countries so that they get the resources they need and we can eradicate malaria and finish the fight there. So yes, and I'm also excited about working with the Women's Resilience Center, which is based in North Sydney. It's a fantastic, fairly new nonprofit that is giving shelter and kindness and counseling and just being there for women who are going through a tough time. That could be domestic violence, or that could be grief and a loss of a spouse. They're a wonderful group run by a woman named Simone Allen. This is her baby, and I'm very thankful to be one of their ambassadors, working to help raise awareness of the importance of having these types of facilities. Last but not least, I have just become an ambassador for Osser, who make my prosthetics, who help me live a life without limitations. And what I'd like to leave you with tonight is a quote. And I think it was the founder of Fable, a female founder of Fable, said, "The willingness to learn is the most important feature of a leader." The willingness to learn. And I say that because in my journey of recovery, I had to relearn everything. And when we face challenges, we can rely on the knowledge that we have, the things we know. And I think sometimes we know too much, and we choose to believe too much. But our willingness to learn and keep an open mind, see things with a different set of eyes, ask questions and advocate for ourselves and peer for ourselves, is one of the strongest ways and tools to use for resilience that I can offer you. A little anecdote in closing. For parafencing, I had to have made a custom wheelchair. And of course, the Australian flag that's on our spokes, which we have to wear in competition so that observers can recognize which country you're fencing for, there are covers on the spokes of the wheelchair. And the Australians is a lot of green, some gold, and some white. So when I was picking the color of my chair, I had a thought about what would that represent for me? And I gave the concept and the idea to the manufacturers of this custom chair of the bumblebee. And I proudly refer to my chair as the bumblebee. And in asked why the bumblebee, I said, well, there's something you must know. The bumblebee is a little bit overweight. According to the laws of physics, it can't fly. And if it knew it could fly, it doesn't, but unfortunately it doesn't know physics. So, and also it carries a stinger. That's me. So I want to say to you all to never lose your willingness to learn, because in our willingness to learn, we can collectively build solutions in technology, in community, and in society to help us achieve the UN Sustainable Development Goals of a world livable and inhabitable beyond us and our children. Have a wonderful dinner. Have a great evening, and thank you again. Good night.